Hey yo guys and girls, it's D05 on the airwaves. Greetings and welcome. I'm going to take you through my remix of Akira Dani's original record, Biotope, released on the mighty Macarize in 2014. Now this remix has been supported by DJs such as Ruben de Ronde, Thomas Dat, Bloodgroove and Kiki's, Armin van Buren. What I'd like to do is take you through how I went about making this record, the thought process and the technical aspects also. So, let's start off by listening to the original for those of you who haven't heard it. Okay, so the first thing that I really thought about when I heard the original was that it had this sort of natural, organic-y vibe to it, and that's something I wanted to bring forward in my remix. Also, the bass itself, the notes that were hitting on that bass, I tried a few different ideas. I was listening to a track by Poison Pro called Alien, and it was a Shingo Nakamura remix, which if you haven't heard, I suggest you listen to because it's an awesome track. And I was going for that kind of vibe, but I felt like the bass was such a key element in the original that I actually wanted to keep the same pattern going in the remix. So I stuck with that, although I did do some key changes, some bass note changes, which you can see here. So with that natural, organic vibe going on there, I will now play my remix for anyone who's not heard it. So, you can hear from that I went for a kind of deep, darker, atmospheric, progressive vibe, but still keeping that naturalness to it, that sort of organic elements in there as well. So, let's take a look at this project, and I'm going to start by looking at the drums. I'll select a section with all of the drums playing. And let's take a listen first of all to how that sounds. So you can hear quite a tight, groovy, percussive drum sound with a few naturally organic-y style elements in there, so I'm sticking with that same vibe. The kick drum itself, snappy kick, still got some thump in the low end though, and it's also got these percussive elements, these little hits, the percussive hits, short tom style things, I don't know what they are, but I felt that really sort of added to the whole groove. And again, this is a loop. I do use loops from time to time. I'm very happy to use loops. If they sound good, they sound good. You know, this whole ordeal with people saying, "Oh well, I don't use loops. I like to make it sound my own," and otherwise people will know. Well, you know, who the fuck's going to know what this sounds like? Are you going to know what sample pack this is from? No. I do cut up loops as well. I use different parts of it, but there are times where either I might be feeling lazy or I just like the sound of what I'm hearing, so I stick with that. So processing on the kick, you can see I've got various different bits. These here are filters that I've set up, which are used in the track. So you can see here, I've got that filter set up there, which is just basically a high pass, cutting out the low end. And some reverb for some suspense at certain times. I'm not exactly sure when that is used. Right, okay, it's just for the drum hits in the breakdown. Yeah, so instead of using a drum hit from a sample pack, I just use the kick drum that I've got and put some reverb on it. I want to make sure that this kick is dead in the center, which is why I used a utility to put the width to 0. Just to ensure that it's fully mono. And then we've got an EQ here, Ableton's stock EQ8, which prior to what I use now, I have used quite a lot of. Now that I have some other plugins, it's Equality by DMG Audio, which is something that really makes a difference. When you're stacking EQs, if you've got an EQ that really brings out artifacts and things that you don't want, one's fine, you won't hear it, but it can build up, and it can the overall sound of it can make a difference, which is why I do like using the DMG Equality EQ. However, this is an older project, and I didn't have it at the time, so I just used Ableton's one. You can see here I've just rounded off some of those low subby frequencies there, and then I've cut out some high end which I didn't want. If I turn it off, you can hear it's made it tighter, but not only that, you're getting a bit more bass out of it as well, or the perception is that you're getting more bass out of it. So EQing like this can really make a big difference. So next, some percussive elements. Some small EQ, because there is some sort of snare in there. You can hear that hit. There's a lot of low end that I just don't need, and then I didn't like these frequencies here around 2.6 kilohertz, so I got rid of those. You can hear that little click coming through, which I didn't want. Some more percussion here. Some weird sound going on. Sounded good in the mix. Again, some more clicks and pops with some hi-hats. It's a weird loop with some panning going on. No processing on that. Some hi-hats. All I've done there is put them dead in the center, because you can see how wide they are. Cut out any of the low end that's going to be going in there, although yeah, you can see that there, so didn't want any of that. And then some sidechain compression, really just to make it groove with the kick and stay away from it. Another hi-hat with a high pass on there, just to get rid of that low end. Some more percussion. This is the snare element. my snare track, and another snare below it, which is a wide snare. And that's the final sound. Now anyone could plaster together some loops, but making them sound right, finding the right loops and right sounds, should I say, is more of the finer art of things here. Okay, so the next part I want to look at is the drum processing. Now, all of these channels, these drum channels, have been put into a group, the drum group, and in that drum group I have got an overdrive, Ableton's overdrive going on there, and some saturation using the saturator. What the saturator is doing is it's using this analog clip algorithm, and I've just put some drive on there. That's simply it. And then the overdrive, of course, is really pushing out the mid to high end of it. It's got a lot of drive and just a little bit of a little bit of wet coming out, 6%, and that's really what's flourishing those high ends in the mix of the drums. So if I play them without, first of all, here it sounds quite dry. Not much life to it. Let's put the saturator on first of all. Already bringing out the kick in some of those different percussive elements. The overdrive, you can hear really pushing through the hi-hats and the percussion as well. So it's a big difference. Let me just turn it off and on. So just some small steps of processing like this can make a massive difference. So always put in time and effort for that detail. Next, we'll take a look at the bass. And you can hear it's really got that sort of old school FME style bass sound that we're hearing a lot of right now. I'll go through the different elements of it. So it's got a few layers in there, all working out different frequency ranges. Here's the main bass. Used Massive for this. It was a Neuro bass patch. And I'll go through the processing and what it's doing. So I'm doing some high passing here with this auto filter, so anything below 81 Hertz it's cutting out. I've got a different patch, a sub bass patch, which is working on the sub, so I've cut that out of my main bass. Then I've got some saturation going on. Now this is an interesting one because this is what is transforming the sound. We'll hear what it sounds like before, so what I'll do is I'll just turn off each element. I've got some multi-band compression, sidechain, EQ, and then some stereo imaging going on there. Alright, so let's play it without any processing. And you can hear that really doesn't sound like what you heard a second ago. Getting rid of that. Getting rid of the low end. Now the saturator, if I turn this on, really hear how much the sound has changed, and I really like using this wave shaper algorithm that they've got, because you can transform the sound in so many different ways using some of these parameters underneath. And the main one here that's making a big difference is the curve. The curve is really transforming this sound. So if I just play without and back in, you can hear the difference. Pump that up. And the depth is how much of that is affected. And you've got some different parameters here, but really it's this one that's making the biggest difference. And I use it a lot on my bass sounds just to get some cool results from it. I would recommend messing around with this on simple bass patches, just to hear the difference, just to hear how much bigger and prominent it can make that sound. So multiband, just either being lazy, I think, and not EQing some higher end and mids. I'll just drop this on there. You can hear it's just peeking out those little high frequencies. Then I've got some standard sidechain compression going on here. Quite heavy because I want that kick to really bring its power out through it. So it's got a high ratio, 3.8 to 1, and I've got a lower release on here and a really fast attack, so it's just snapping. And some EQ. I found a problematic frequency at 1.8 kilohertz, which I didn't like, so I got rid of that. And then I've just rolled off some of the high end here as well, which I didn't want. Now you can hear it's quite mono at the moment, which is okay, but I wanted to give the kick some space, so I've used this Waves S1 imager to bring it out and make it more stereo. If you've got earphones on, you'll be able to hear the difference. Without, with. It's really, you can hear some of that reverb as well, the effects being brought through as well because you've widened the sound. So that's the main bass. We've got this plucky bass in here, massive again, and another high pass, everything below 230 out. You can hear how subby that is with. So taking that out, some sidechain compression, same settings again, 3:8 ratio, and then some additional EQing just to get rid of the low end, and I just bring in really this mid to high. That's the bit I really liked about this sound, and it added a nice layer onto the main overall sound. And then some stereo effect on here again using the Waves S1 imager, and really just a little bit to push it out to the sides again. Now here we have the sub bass element. Now if I take this off so you can hear what it sounds like without, just get rid of that because we don't need that. So it's I've got using an auto filter to keep just the subs, and then I've got a Waves R bass on there, really just to push out some of the subs as well, get it a bit more boomier in the lower range, some sidechain compression, and then using some overdrive to bring out some of the mid to lows. So this is what it sounds like without. I'm using a pitch plugin just because I've pasted in the notes and they're all at a higher octave, so I've brought them down. That's what they sound like without. Obviously with. This is very useful plugin, controlling the note length, because that's what it sounds like without. And really this is me being lazy and not bothering to select these and then shorten them down like that. And instead of doing that, all I've done is use this to control the note length using these parameters underneath and the gate effect as well. So auto filter, really just to keep the low end in there. R bass, and if you've got headphones, you'll hear how much subby that is with the R bass on. Sidechain. Now the sub, of course, you want it to come out, but you also don't want it to interfere with the kick. And these two are the closest elements together, so I really needed to put that sidechain through in order to make sure that the kick, when it hits, it is not being drowned out by the sub. And then finally some overdrive. really it's brought out some mid-range as well. I'm not too sure at the moment why I did that, but in the overall mix it sounded right, so I kept that. And then another nice accompanying sound to go with the main bass. Same processing really, I just copied it over, I would have thought. Some different parameters set here with the curve. If I turn that off, you can hear that. Hear the difference. Right, and then some multi-band compression, some EQing, some imaging here just to bring it out and make it a lot wider, and then some final EQing here to control some of the elements, the frequencies, and I brought out around the 524 kilohertz, just a little boost, and then I've cut the rest or rolled it off from 2.91 on the high end. Okay, so altogether the bass sounds like this. And again, what makes the bass sound like this is the final processing. So all of these channels here have been routed to another bus, another channel, which is my bass bus, and that you can see down here. And I've got some additional processing going on. You can see one of these is just an effect. This one here, I just created a few EQ effects with an auto filter as well. Put them in created a macro for them and assigned some of the controls to the macro knobs here. And you can hear what they sound like. If I just play that, this is just a notch bandpass effect. Very simple to make. If you look at the map section, you can see what I'm doing here. I've got maximum and minimum controls, and see what the low pass is doing. And then you've got the high pass as well. So I'm removing any of that bass frequencies. Simple to make, give it a try. You'll be using these again and again once they're done. Okay, let me get rid of this. And if I go back, so the processing I'm using, I've got a Cable Guys volume shaper. If you don't know what that is, it's basically doing some more side chaining, and it's allowing me to create volume envelopes here in order to control the volume using my own lines and curves. Then I've got, from the SSL range, some EQing going on here, and also something I love to use, which is the SSL compressor. Very nice modeled compressor on the hardware to software, and it really gives a good sound to bass. I've copied a setting from Seven Skies actually. He was doing some EQing processing, so this is one of his settings, tweaked a little bit of course to suit this track, but again very helpful, so thank you sir. And then some additional compression here just to bring all the levels together, and some final EQ to get rid of or roll out some of those high ends and get rid of some of that subby low end as well. So if I just turn it off, I'm going to deactivate all of the processing, sorry, and then play that. This is with. And without. So you can see just putting those final touches on the overall sound, really to bring it out and bring it together. And with the drums, it sounds like this. That volume shaper, really just making sure that it doesn't get in the way of that kick hitting first of all. So right, on to the next parts. So I mean, I'll quickly go over the effects. Really, there's nothing special going on here. Yeah, some crashes, some EQ, reverb and flanger. Again, just something different, you know, give it a bit more movement, just not to make it sound so basic and standard. A reverse crash, big sweep up, some compression, but nothing actually going on there. So this, I was thinking about using it for side chaining, but I didn't bother. And then I've just got some EQing going on. Some effects that I'm not sure what it is. May find out now. Or not. Okay, and then just some downlifters there. And that's pretty much it. Effects is few and far between, you just make it your own. Okay, now on to the synths. So when we start off the track, I've got some plucks going on. And I'm using Silent. It was actually a preset, Stan Kolev style. And then some automation on the filter cutoff, opening up. Some EQing, some compression, and some side chaining. What else have we got here? Some RP sounds, that one, and this one. Yeah. Kind of like some incidentals in the background, really going off. Like that. I'll put it into context. And again there. Some road sound, but used as an art. And it's kind of like call and response going on there. One says something, then something responds with it with another melody. Now, processing wise, what have we got? We got an auto filter on there, and really just because I wanted the mid and highs. Some EQing because there was some spikes in the frequency range which didn't sound good to me, so I removed those. And then some delay, stock Ableton reverb, some sidechain going on, and then some additional effects, which was a flanger and a phaser, just to give it a bit more movement. Probably very subtle. Yeah, very subtle, but makes all the difference. And I've got this kind of like sine wave reverberated hit, some auto panning, some compression just to push it out, and some reverb. That's making the big difference. And then some sidechain. This sound was something I didn't bother using, and by playing it you can hear why. I don't think it fitted in too well. Now these were the other parts, the atmospheric bits. So this was a loop that I'd found. Really nice sample. If I put it on without processing, that's getting rid of that sub, which I didn't want because I didn't want it to interfere with the bass. And then all of this, you can hear that. Now I can put it back on, get rid of that sub. I've rolled off some of the high ends here, and it's using an LFO, so that's the important part. That gives it the movement. If I play it again and turn this off, you can hear how dead center it is. It's slightly boring, there's nothing going on with that. If we use the auto filter and use the LFO to control what we're cutting off here, it's actually panning it, moving it left, right between that cut, and it's just giving it a bit more movement and a bit more interest. Reverb, give it a bit more space. Ping pong, same again. And then some sidechain compression. Again, here's some atmospheric sounds. Same processing, just copied it over. Play it here, context. Without. See instantly how much of a difference that makes. And I'll go back to it, and I'll probably say it a lot throughout this recording, but it's all in the detail. So all these little things that you think, oh, I won't bother putting in, by putting them in, you'll see how much of a difference it actually makes. Okay, and then we've got some more ambient sounds. Probably shouldn't have used the same track for different sounds, but fuck it, that's what happens. You can hear these. Again, same processing, auto filter for movement, reverb, delay, compression, and I've got another auto filter which is basically filtering in the sound at times, and then at the very start of it I've just got high pass cutting out that low end. And then without these sounds, let's just turn them off. That's what it sounds like. Let me turn it on. You can hear automatically your imagination is kind of wandering away now with all these different sounds going on. Very subtle, but still in the background working away. Okay, so the main part now is the lead in the breakdown. So I introduced one of my favourite leads, which I'm a sucker for, better for worse, using in a lot of my tracks, and it's this really sort of synthy 80s guitar-y type sound, but in this track actually makes it quite eerie. I'll just play it for you. You can hear that wailing sound, which some people do not like. I know anyway, a lot of my friends don't, but I love it. You can hear the difference if I take off the reverb, and that is what is really giving the space here, and play it now. That's it in its rawest form. Not pretty. EQ is really cutting at some of the high and low ends, controlling that. Just slight mono settings there, just to bring it in a bit more, only a little bit. Some compression, control some of them spikes, and if I put this on, the reverb, that's what's really providing the space in the track for this sound, because it is quite a strong sound. And then of course I've used the inbuilt effects as well to space it out a bit more. In context. Pitch automation, as you can see there. Really provides us effects for the track. Kicks back in. Bang in. Right, so that was the main synth. Just there's a piano stab going on here. If you hear it in context. Really you hear it, but it's not that prominent, but it's making all the difference in there. I've used Nexus for that. Really light piano. Processing wise, this is the only range of frequencies that I wanted, or that sounded good to me. You can hear that's what it sounds like. We don't need all that carry on, we just need this. Reverb, space, some compression, put that back in, and then some final roll off on the high end with this auto filter. I've got the standard bass playing, so this is one of the bass patches already, the bass tracks. However, I did introduce a new bass channel, and that's this one here. You can see it's got similar settings again. Set, just to give it that build up, I'm using overdrive. That's what it sounds like. Auto filter, automation there. See? All sorts of automation going on. And if I just turn off this separator, that's what it sounds like. Not as big a difference as the other ones. Okay, and then I had some pad sounds also in the background. Very lush pad. I like using these types of sounds. It's got that really sort of melodic-y, progressive vibe for me. Just a straight note, and some auto filter used to roll off the high end, and using an LFO again for some movement. Some EQ here to roll off the low end, so high passing, and then some reverb, give it a bit of space, some delay, and then some sidechain compression. This one here is something that I didn't use. I'm not sure why. Let's just take a quick peek. Right. Enough said about that. Okay. So the final part I'd like to go through now is the vocals. I'll just catch a point where we've got all of them going on, and I'll just solo these out so we can hear what they sound like. Very eerie, angelic-y, serious-y sort of shit going on there. Now the processing, all I did was, I've got some weird EQ going on here. Not entirely sure what this is all about here, but it's what I had at the beginning. I simply duplicated this track and then put these samples in each part and fixed them together so they sound the way they sound. Compression, some delay and some reverb, and then some sidechain going on. Now again, it makes a big difference if I play the track without. Now put these in. See, it just completely takes away that feeling that it's giving you. It's telling a story, it's doing something. So I do like using vocal samples and cuts and all that kind of stuff in a lot of my tracks. It just adds another depth to the mix. So I was quite happy with that. And again, if I, even in the breakdown, if I same again, really adding another level of depth into the track. Okay, so the final part that I'll touch on really is what I have on my master channel. Now, I'm not a mastering engineer, so I don't master a lot of my own tracks. I have mastered a few, but I won't be starting anytime soon. There's too much going on as it is, so I leave that to the experts for now. What I have got on here is a plugin. Basically, it's just a chain of plugins, multiband, saturator, and limiter. And I have the mix. If you take a look at the master channel. You can see it's it's nowhere near peaking or anything of the sort. So any mastering engineer would be very happy to have that much headroom to play with. So all I use this for is a way to listen to how it would sound if it did have some sort of mastering on it. If I really wanted to push it on some speakers and get that feel for it, then I would turn this on. Just to get an idea of how it sounds in context. And then I've got a Master Effects rack on, but I didn't bother using it. I was trying out some stuff. Obviously, probably didn't sound the best. I mean, I've got it on here. Let's have a look. Yeah, okay. So I don't think I need to explain why I didn't bother using that instead. Right. Well, guys and girls, I hope you've enjoyed watching this and got something from it. You can catch me on all sorts of social networks. Facebook as D05, SoundCloud /D05, or you can catch me on Twitter at D05 Music. Alright guys, peace out.